Welcome to the Grand Theft World podcast, hosted and sponsored by grandtheftworld.com. It's episode 89. This is July 17th, 2022. We're going to be breaking down the news of the week, getting in some of the censored stories over the next 6 or 7 hours tonight, just as we usually do every week. Give you a little tasty summary that you can watch throughout the next week to catch up on the last week so you understand the historical context and not just a bunch of headlines that change every day as you go through. So, newer headlines in the past week. We saw New York City started doing nuclear missile drills, nuclear attack drills. Like it's the 1960s Cuban Missile Crisis, duck and cover, get under the desks, whatever the modern version of that. People in New York City, they've been practicing that.
So there's been a nuclear attack. Don't ask me how or why, just know that the big one has hit, okay? So what do? There are 3 important steps that I want you to remember. Step 1, get inside fast. You, your friends, your family, get inside. And no, staying in the car is not an option. You need to get into a building and move away from the windows. Step 2, stay inside. Shut all doors and windows. Have a basement? Head there. If you don't have one, get as far into the middle of the building as possible. If you were outside after the blast, get clean immediately. Remove and bag all outer clothing to keep radioactive dust or ash away from your body. Step 3, stay tuned. Follow media for more information. Don't forget to sign up for Notify NYC for official alerts and updates. And don't go outside until officials say it's safe. All right, you've got this.
The mantra, get inside, stay tuned, is a good one to remember. That's if you're lucky enough to not be incinerated by the explosive blast or crushed by the shock waves. So if you do survive, you need to worry about radioactive fallout. And that's why you need to get inside as quickly as possible. But this PSA doesn't tell you a few pretty important things you need to know, like how long are you expected to stay inside sheltering in the basement? The answer could be a month. At minimum, you'll be down there for 24 to 48 hours, but mostly likely longer than that. On top of this, they don't tell you how are you supposed to tune in to any radio or media when you're in a basement with very little reception, and that's if cell towers survived. And where are you supposed to go to the bathroom? And what are you supposed to eat? And how are you supposed to rinse off the debris if you're sheltering like in a crawl space or something? So FEMA recommends you prepare yourself in advance by doing a few things in addition to what this video has to say. So I have the single most important thing that you should do that neither FEMA nor New York City government tells you, and I will get to that. But let's look at what FEMA says just in case, okay? First of all, you're going to need some water, a gallon of water per person per day for at least 3 days. You're going to need this for drinking and for sanitation. That's how you're going to wash yourself off. If you get yourself into, you need to clean yourself up. That's the way you're going to take a shower potentially. You're going to need some food, at least a 3-day supply of non-perishable food. So you're going to need battery or hand cranked radio. And that's actually how you're going to find out about how long you need to be staying in your basement or crawl space or wherever it is you are in the center of your building. You definitely want to be in a concrete building. Try to stay, if your house is made out of wood, try to be in a commercial building that has concrete, or get to your basement or crawl space or something of that sort. But that's how you're going to hear about updates. You need a hand crank radio.
Also, we got a new strain of COVID to talk about. They say it's the most deadly variant yet, which is that, it's an interesting claim, right? That's clickbait that they're putting out there for you. Is it really that deadly, or were the other ones just not that deadly and this one's deadlier? We have yet to find out.
CNN is telling people that it's the worst variant. It says the worst variant is here, and they mean BA5. And why do they put it in quotes? Because it's not true. Now, is it the worst variant of Omicron? Yes. But they make it seem like it. They don't say that in the headline, do they? The worst variant of Omicron. They say the worst variant, and then they leave it vague. I just want to tell you that they call it the worst variant. But how long does it take them in the story to tell you what the severity of the illness is caused by this variant that they call the worst? Do you want to see how long it takes for them to tell you that? Because what they do is they spend the first 8 paragraphs fear-mongering. Watch this. So here's how long it takes. Oh my God. Eric Topol, a cardiologist and professor of molecular. So what they spend the whole article doing is stuff like this, scaring you, saying some experts think there could be as many as 1 million new infections every day in the United States, 10 times higher than the official count. As for how to manage the new wave, they urged Americans $50, get a second booster. So that was all those paragraphs that I showed you was full of stuff like this. And then finally you got down to like whatever that was, 8th or 9th paragraph. Then they finally decided to tell you what makes this variant different. The worst variant. What makes it different? It takes an immune escape already extensive to the next level. And as a function of that, enhanced transmissibility well beyond earlier versions of Omicron. So they're saying what makes it the worst isn't that it makes you sicker. They're saying what makes it the worst, finally in paragraph 9, is that it makes it more transmissible. Not that it's more deadly, but that it's more transmissible. That's what makes it the worst. And they spend 8-9 paragraphs scaring the bejesus out of you about that and using all this carefully structured words to leave out what the severity of the illness is. So let's go on more. In other words, BA5 can easily evade immunity from previous infections and vaccines, increasing the risk of reinfection. Though the variant, here it is, finally, whoa, hold on. Though the variant does not appear to lead to more severe illness. What paragraph did they put that in? They call it the worst variant is here. Look at this. The worst variant is here. 2 different headlines. And then finally, in paragraph 9, though the variant does not appear to lead to more severe illness. There's this doctor from Johns Hopkins, this virologist, who just tweeted out a thread about why the BA5 is good news. There's good news about COVID, and there isn't reason you should be less scared. David Dowdy, this guy is from Johns Hopkins. He's a virologist. He says, does it make sense to use bivalent vax this winter? Yes, circulating strains will likely be Omicron descendants, meaning bivalent vax. But current vaccines still prevent. New vaccines will not be game changers. Okay. And then he says, viruses evolve, but our immune system also adapts. One can always focus on the virus for bad news, but the overall trend is good news. April through June 2022 was the least deadly 3-month period since the pandemic started, even as transmission has risen. That you can look at it like that. Gradual rise. Whereas Omicron fully established itself in 1 month, BA5 has taken 2 months to get to 50%, and the size of the wave has been much smaller, meaning that any advantage BA5 has over other subvariants is very small compared to the advantage Omicron had over Delta. We already did that. Although hospitalizations across the U.S. are rising, they have already stabilized in places that had a larger BA2 wave, New York and below, suggesting that the rise seen in other places is mostly because of less immunity, not a new subvariant. Although hospitalizations across the U.S. are, we just did that. COVID transmission is as high now as it's ever been, except last winter, so not much room for transmissions to go higher. Yet COVID death rate is lower than for the flu in an average pre-pandemic season. And did you just see that goddamn CNN report? Could we see more deaths from the flu than COVID this coming winter? Possibly. Quick comment on long COVID. Long COVID is real and for some devastating, but long COVID is not one thing, and it can be weeks of a cough or a debilitating brain fog and can happen with any infection. As COVID gets milder, not sure long COVID versus long flu deserves a special treatment. In summary, BA5 is now the dominant subvariant in the United States, but deaths are stable and low. Hospitalizations are stable in areas with larger BA2 waves, and despite transmission levels that can't go too much higher, meaning we shouldn't be too pessimistic about the upcoming winter.
Because of that, they're bringing back the mask mandates. They're dusting those off. Those things you thought were in the past. Maybe we had outgrown that irrational, fear-based thinking of putting something against your face all day and then touching it with your dirty hands and then having it next to your nose and respiratory tract all day. The unsanitariness of it. If you just observe people there, it's so casual. It's no longer a preventative device, a medical device. It's more of a fashion statement. It's a political statement these days.
The indoor mask mandate is set to return to L.A. after the county enters the high-risk level of COVID infections. The health director says if the county remains in this high category for 2 consecutive weeks, the masking requirement will return Friday, July 29th. It's the news so many people don't want to hear.
Yes, and who's going to get affected? Well, all the retail stores you see all around us, aside from shared offices, manufacturing facilities, schools, and yes, the bars and the restaurants, and they're not happy. Listen.
I think it's all
No way. Oh, yeah. What a bunch of BS.
it's going to be horrible again.
But many working in restaurant kitchens are not looking forward to it.
It makes it so much more tough to work in a mask. And the customers too, we can't hear them, they can't hear us. It's difficult all the way around.
And quite a few people are questioning mandates in general.
I have friends that have been vaccinated and had 3 boosters, and they still get sick. So why do we have to wear these masks? That's ridiculous.
I'm done with it. I will not wear a mask.
You really, are you going to ask people to wear them when they come in?
No, I'm not. It's none of my, if they want to wear it, they can wear it. I'm not going to, discriminate against them.
And she echoes a lot of restaurants, especially, who are saying that they fear what's going to happen is people who don't want to wear masks, they're going to go cross-county, like they did during the COVID closures, and stop spending money in businesses when they really need it right now.
To add to the massive violation of the Nuremberg Code, even the masks not only never worked, but research is now showing that masks don't protect you, but may actually make you sick. Using CDC data, researchers with the University of Louisville calculated total COVID-19 case growth and mask use for the U.S. No significant differences were found in case growth between mandate and non-mandate states during periods of low or high transmission. The widespread use of masks did not reduce COVID-19 transmission in Europe. COVID-19 case rates in Kansas, counties with a mask mandate, had significantly higher COVID-19 case fatality rates than counties without a mask mandate. One way masks cause harm may be the Fogan effect, the idea that deep re-inhalation of droplets and virions caught on face masks might make COVID-19 infection more likely or more severe. In fact, Dr. Shauna Swan, a professor of environmental medicine and public health at Mount Sinai Health System, warned in a book that phthalates, a chemical commonly used in the manufacturing of plastics, can shrink penises and decrease male fertility.
There's also a clip after which this episode is named, Chemical Colonialism. It's Russell Brand talking with Vandana Shiva. Now, 10 years ago when we launched Tragedy and Hope, remember we mentioned the 10-year anniversary, or the 13-year anniversary a couple weeks ago. In our first issue, we had Vandana Shiva. We had the World According to Monsanto. There was a lot of chemicals in the food back then that we were telling people about. Fast forward 13 years later, still going on today. So what you're going to see is a recent clip with Russell Brand, Vandana Shiva. She's going to talk about this chemical corporate colonialism of our food, of our being.
Massive farmer protests have broken out around the Netherlands.
The government in the Netherlands is shutting down farms in the name of climate change.
Why is the Dutch Prime Minister pushing this anti-agriculture plan?
He wants to reduce nitrogen emissions by so much that it's going to throw tens of thousands of farmers here in the Netherlands out of a job.
The government there ordered farmers to slash emissions from their cows by 50%.
A 50% reduction in 2030, that's in 7 years. It's simply unfeasible.
The Netherlands has been ramping up regulations despite farmers saying they needed time to adapt and to go slow or they will go out of business.
This nitrogen policy is, let me say, a disaster.
Farmers say they are being unfairly targeted as opposed to big businesses and industries. Many are vowing to resist any plans to scale down or close farms.
Farmers across the country held mass demonstrations and blocked highways with their tractors.
Manure has been sprayed in front of some of the government buildings. Media buildings have been blocked with tractors, trucks, and surrounded with poo.
While few of them had a scuffle with police officials.
Police have been using tear gas on the farmers, and military tanks have been called in to deal with the blockades.
Police opened fire at protesters in a tractor as farmers stormed the streets.
A 16-year-old boy in a tractor was shot at by police and arrested and held in jail for driving a tractor at one of these protests.
After weeks of blocking highways and some confrontations with police, now they're targeting the very core of society, food.
So this new order in the Netherlands would have the effect of destroying agriculture in the Netherlands.
We're seeing potential food shortages here, and that's really a fear as well, correct?
I mean, that's absurd right now, right? We're in a world where there's not enough food, and then we're saying, no, let's produce less food. I think we're going to see a lot more protests because nobody has told anyone how incredibly costly these promises are, and people are going to revolt when they start seeing the bills.
While the mainstream media may be portraying the Dutch farmer protests as an anti-environmentalist movement peopled by selfish farmers, Vandana Shiva, with her experience in how corrupt, centralised agricultural, monocultural giants are oppressing independent farmers all over the world. This is connected to the land grab of Bill Gates. This is connected to corruption of companies like Monsanto. This whole fertiliser situation is a scam. They present it as a green ideology. Oh, we can't keep using these fertilizers, and anyone who lives in the rural area will know that when those fertilizers get used, you think, oh God, is this a bit dodgy? But the reason that farmers are using those fertilizers is because it's necessary economically, because of the pressure they are under financially, often because of government enforced imperatives. And the objective isn't to get the farmers to behave in an organic, responsible, ecologically apposite manner. No, far from it. It's in order to bankrupt the farmers so that their land can be grabbed. My mind was blown by that. This shows you how the Great Reset operates. It uses a green agenda, and just so you know, I agree with the green agenda. I think that the planet should be treated with love and respect, that we should see ourselves as in harmony with it. But when regulations are passed down from a globalist level and it affects the lives of ordinary farmers, it's the duty of all of us to support them, to stand in solidarity, to give them time to make those transitions, to say to the farming and agricultural community, we'll support you by buying your products if you make these concessions and changes, which we'll agree between us. It doesn't need to be mediated by technocratic globalist bodies. We, the people, can make these decisions together. Anyway, you don't care what I think about this stuff, but you should care what Vandana Shiva thinks. She is a bold, brilliant world teacher.
Many different ways of looking at and responding to the crisis we face. We do face a serious crisis caused by industrial agriculture. 50% greenhouse gases come from farming with fossil fuels and chemicals, and shifting food long distance, transforming it with ultra-processing, packaging it. All of this has added up to greenhouse gases. But that same system that is punishing the farmer is as punishing the earth and is punishing the consumers through disease. When did it start? The chemical fertilizers are a byproduct of Hitler's regime. The IG Farben group of cartel of corporations, combined with Standard Oil of the US, used fossil fuels to fix atmospheric nitrogen by burning fossil fuels at very high temperature. Now, there are better ways to fix nitrogen, and that is, well, let the earthworms give you 40 kilograms per hectare. Let the soil mycorrhiza work. So what's happened is the same people who are pushing a very anti-nature, anti-people, anti-life globalization agenda shaped a system that has caused a problem, forced the farmers into that system to use chemical fertilizers, to get the cows off the grass and into factory farms, then feed them with GMO soya that's chopping down the Amazon, 40% of soya goes for animal feed. Another 40% goes for biofuel. It's not feeding the world. All of this was forced on people through regulation. It was forced through subsidies. 50% of the European tax money was going to create this kind of agriculture. Now, the same people who caused the problem are saying, farmers, you're responsible. It's a bit like saying to a person who went obese because of junk food, to say, you are responsible. No, the junk food industry is responsible. The Pepsis and the Cokes are responsible. The fertilizer. These are identifiable players. And there's a principle of justice called polluter pays. The original cause of pollution is the manufacturers and the governments who subsidized it, and the governments that promoted the false idea that without chemicals you can't grow food, and billionaires today who are promoting that same false idea, Bill Gates. So there are huge numbers of alternatives, but farmers need to be given a 5 to 10 year period of transition, and the structures that were created to promote chemicals should be used to promote ecological agriculture. You need new research, you need new schools, and you definitely cannot punish the victim. Farmers are a victim of this system. And I think we definitely need to see the world that the greedy want to create. All of natural resources in their hands, all of land in their hands. The same billionaires who are telling the farmers, forget the land, take money and leave it, want that land. The same people who say, oh, food is unnecessary, we're going to make lab food, are the very people who are then also investing in land to have real food. It's the ultimate colonization that's happening, and it's condensing everything that's gone wrong. In my view, the witch hunts were really killing those people who lived and taught the life that we are part of nature. The witches were teachers of oneness with nature. They were the ones who were hunted down. And that for a century or 2 centuries, 9 million people killed in Europe. It was a killing of the ecological mind. The colonialism, then the chemical agriculture from Hitler's Germany, the new GMO push, the earlier push, the new push. All of this is combining to say we will disenfranchise you, we will not let you make your living, we will not let you have a livelihood, because with the earth, with her animals, with her trees, we can create life. The fact that people are marching in every country on cost of living should become a deeper question. The right to live.
And then there's also a clip going around. Burmis was, I think his title was, the World Economic Forum wants to bring robots to the classroom. So it's more on the cybernetics, track trace, database, technology, technocratic control of not just us, but the future generations, the removal of pesky teachers, just like they want to remove parents from the process and just have the government create or incubate human beings. Same kind of thing in the schools. So no bridge between your child in the future other than the robot or the AI algorithm that they're interacting with. Human being, human wisdom, human experience no longer fits the bill. It's obsolete. All right, so to get tonight rolling, let's go to Luke Radowski of wearechange.org, and let's get tonight's kickoff.
Hello, useless eaters. As your unqualified, non-elected global human health overlord, I'd like to take this opportunity to flaunt my position of power and influence over society and share some of my plans for you and your future. When I amassed my fortune in computer software, I demonstrated that I was willing to lie, steal code, cheat my partners, and exercise monopolistic control to destroy my competitors. Now that I've retired, I can rebrand myself as a humanitarian. With my for-profit foundation masquerading as a charity, I can advocate for population reduction and sponsor mass human experiments with unproven vaccines in vulnerable populations. Like my father, a powerful banker, eugenicist, and Rockefeller crony himself, it's always been my ambition to decide who lives and, more importantly, how many have to.
Huh, that generic-looking cartoon sure looks like someone that we can't criticize fully here on this platform. I wonder who it is. Must be nobody.
What makes autonomy uniquely empowering? Autonomy is a self-help course unlike any other. Over the course of our 12-week program, you'll experience weekly live lectures from Richard Grove, specifically designed to equip you with the skills you need to set yourself free. Free from the learned helplessness taught in our schools, free from the dependence on a corrupt system that serves only to uphold the rich, free from the structure of your 9-to-5 if that's your prerogative. Plus, you'll enter into a community of like-minded individuals who are pursuing the same freedom you are, and who'll support you and learn alongside you every step of the way. A lifetime of community and the tools to live however you want. We can't wait to meet you. Learn more at getautonomy.info.